once again, and if it wins here, and that is Gianni Morbidelli coming in for his Footwork tyre stop from 5th position, and if Gerhard Berger does win here, he will match the McLaren record of 104 Grand Prix victories, admittedly from far more races for Ferrari than McLaren. But it's a great team that's always been in the World Championship, that has been at the top of sports car racing, is a legendary name with a charismatic personality. And the prancing horse, which you see on the yellow background of Gerhard Berger's Ferrari as he comes through the long right-hander to cross the grid and finish his 30th lap, is a sign of that team. Well, hopefully, as Hill goes through and unlaps himself from the 3rd place man, Eric Bernard in the Ligier. Retirements then, 16 of them: Shauna Lacey, Mika Häkkinen, Mark Blundell, Pierluigi Martini, Frentzen, Irvine, Barrichello, Johnny Herbert, Zanardi, Alboreto, Katayama, Coulthard, Verstappen, Michael Schumacher and Martin Brundle.
And as we watch these two cars, you can see the difference, not just between Bernard and Damon Hill, but between the two different chassis, because both of these cars have the same Renault V10 RS6 engine. There we go. There goes Hill into the second chicane, up the inside. Bernard giving him room. Good of him to do that. He should have done it, but nevertheless a number of drivers wouldn't. But these cars have identical engines. They should have more or less identical power. And it gives you a chance to see just how big the difference in performance of the chassis is. And I would think that's probably round about 3 seconds a lap between these two.
Lap 32 now. Berger 37 seconds ahead of Parnis. He's lapping a second faster than the Frenchman, who has every reason to drive a very steady race. The car behind him is his teammate, and he is 7 seconds behind. That is Eric Bernard. So Cesare Fiorio, who is the ex-Ferrari team manager and now the team manager for the Ligier team, with his new technical director Frank Durney, who's moved across from Benetton, because Benetton now, or rather the Benetton management, own the Ligier team. And I'm quite sure that not in their wildest moments would any of the Ligier drivers or management have thought, when they got up this morning, that they might be celebrating 2nd and 3rd places in the German Grand Prix. Well, they might even be doing better than that, but let's hope that Gerhard Berger does not retire.
And we can see, watching Berger with some 14 laps to go now, how he really has adopted, very sensibly, a very neat driving style. He's not using the curbs, whereas in qualifying, and indeed had he been pushed in the race, he would have been using the curbs on the inside of the corner, just trying to cut the corner that little bit more. And he just about does what I said. That was a bit of a relief, I must admit. Berger just immaculately clipping the inside, leaving literally half an inch. And one of the things that never ceases to amaze me watching Formula One is how the drivers can judge the position of the car to within inches at 100, 150 miles an hour. It's one of those subconscious judgments that just comes on, and one just develops that level of skill. Now watch Berger now. He's coming up to the hardest braking point any minute to the first chicane. He will be slowing through from 200 miles an hour down to 100 about now in just 1.7 seconds. Looking at the data logging from these cars, well, that's 1.7 seconds from 200 miles an hour down to 100, and yet to us watching it, it all looks so undramatic. A very different story inside the cockpit, I can assure you.
I don't think I need to tell you, but I'm going to just the same, that the enormous crowd here has gone very, very quiet indeed. There were 62,000 of them here for final practice yesterday to see their hero, Michael Schumacher, who had won in Brazil and Japan and the San Marino Grand Prix, at Monaco, in Canada and in France, and was leading the World Championship by 27 points, even after he'd had 6 taken away for his transgression at Silverstone. They came here today, a rumoured 150,000 of them, with their red, yellow and black flags, waving them euphorically every time he is coming down this long 200-mile-an-hour straight, which is one of two. Well, it's not quite straight, it's a curve actually. Passing the Simtek, that's It's on the right, into the chicane. That's the Senna chicane.
And Hill will be trying to get along right up behind Panis there. That's Panis in the leading Ligier to overtake him. I would suggest on the inside of the corner, coming up. His Panis is on the middle of the line. Hill should go to the inside. And Panis is keeping him behind there. Panis could have left the door open on the inside. Hill now up to 8th place, really driving well. And, of course, the fastest man on the circuit, Gerhard Berger, not needing to push particularly hard at the moment. Hill lapping some 2 seconds faster than Gerhard Berger.
Well, the best that Olivier Panis, there he is, has finished in a Grand Prix so far, is 7th place in Spain. He may well think, of course, that Damon Hill is actually battling for the 2nd place, which Panis is holding at the present moment.
So we really should see some classic slipstreaming coming up, because both these cars have the same engine, both have very similar top speeds. Damon Hill's got to tuck into the slipstream, into the toe of that Ligier, and then pull out towards the end of the straight to try and outbrake Panis, taking the inside line. But look, he's certainly not as close as he would be with virtually every other car in the field, and as a consequence, he can't do it. Now, really, Panis has no need to let him by. Don't forget, Hill is used to leading races. Panis is used to letting the leader lap him. But certainly in this situation, we don't have that. Panis will know that Hill is behind him, and he won't want to do anything to help Hill get by.
But he doesn't help there, and Hill goes through just the same on the entrance to the stadium. I think I may have been maligning Panis, actually, because he left plenty of room for Damon to go through. So Damon has unlapped himself from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th drivers. He hasn't unlapped himself from Gerhard Berger, who is leading and is 45 seconds up the road. Damon Hill now has got 45 seconds in terms of time between himself and the leader, Gerhard Berger, in the Ferrari. Lap 35 out of 45. Berger leads Panis, who is just behind Damon Hill there, by 42 seconds. Panis is about 8 seconds, and that's a replay of the Williams diving inside the Ligier as they enter the stadium. Fittipaldi is still 4th, 21 seconds ahead of his teammate Morbidelli, who is 5th. Comas is 6th, Beretta is 7th, Damon Hill is in 8th position, ahead of the 2 Simtex, running at their highest in any Grand Prix, David Brabham 9th and Jean-Marc Gounon 10th.
Well, I think what happened there is clearly Panis did give Damon Hill the inside line. He needn't have done, but it was certainly good of him. It was going to happen within the next two or three corners anyway, so it would have been a little bit silly, really, for him to try and hold Hill up. But we've heard a story, in fact, a little bit of a clue as to what might have happened with that fire down at the Benetton pit earlier on when Verstappen's car lost its fuel out of the refuelling hose. It seems that there's a possibility that there's Jean Alesi there, no doubt with John Todd on the right, looking at following Gerhard Berger's progress very closely indeed. But it seems that when that hose went onto the side of the Benetton, it did not go in squarely. Therefore, that might have depressed the coupling release to allow the fuel to go through. And as it was not on squarely, it sprayed out of the side. Now, that's pure conjecture. We don't know, I hasten to add, but I'm quite sure that the FIA, who have been determined to ensure that refueling is a safe mechanism, as a safe inclusion in the Formula One World Championship, will want to look very carefully to see how that incident did happen to make sure that it cannot happen in the future.
Gerhard Berger going through and finishing. There's the sign. Berger 1 plus 43.6 over Panis, and
he will not really be able to do any better than his current 8th place. But a grim weekend for the Benetton team, a grim race for the Benetton team after a grim period of a couple of weeks of problems for them with regulations, with protests, and just reflecting back on that, recall that the whole problem for the Benetton team in terms of Michael Schumacher's 2-race ban started when he overtook Damon Hill on the formation lap. That's the lap prior to the Grand Prix start itself. There we are. That's looks like one of the Benetton. That's the Benetton. That's Verstappen there, Jos Verstappen. Which I'm not entirely sure that it is, but no, it's not. I don't think it is for Jos Verstappen actually.
I think it's the mechanic who has had petrol on him and he's dousing it from his overalls. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's one of the Benetton mechanics. And, well, that is not Verstappen.
Yes, that is Verstappen.
Yes.
We're looking at him now. That is Verstappen. They're trying to confuse us there. But Verstappen there looking in good shape. And I'm sure he's really been, really must have been a very, very frightening experience being in the middle of that. But back to the Benetton team. Of course, Schumacher overtook Damon Hill on the formation lap at Silverstone. That's the final warm-up lap before the race starts. Overtaking is not allowed on that lap.
And he's lapping marginally faster. That's the Ferrari pit. That is the sole Ferrari. And Jorna Lacey must be really rueing what happened to him on that first lap, because he could have been a comfortable second, very easy. Very good indeed for another Grand Prix victory. That would be his 9th in his superb career, and his first for Ferrari since he joined last year.
Of course, one of the other facts from this race is that if Gerhard Berger does win this Grand Prix, as it looks like he will at the moment, that means that Ferrari's tally will reach 104.
Damaged his neck, broke his neck, and then had to recover from that. Scored 1 point, and that's one of the Simtecs out. It is David Brabham, unfortunately, and that would have been his mind, but he couldn't. He might well be saying, Jean, you could have been there, you should have been there. But going back to Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher would make a fine pairing for Benetton and give them what the team desperately needs, and it hasn't got this year. 2 good drivers. So, stay tuned and we'll let you know as soon as we know ourselves what's happening to that rumour. And what's happening to Gerhard Berger is that he is now completing his 40th lap. He has 5 laps, including the one that he's about to start, of this 4.25 mile circuit, 21 miles if my mental arithmetic is right. He sees the sign which tells him he's 48 seconds ahead of Parnis and 58 seconds ahead of Eric Bernard. So the very amiable, enormously likeable Gerhard Berger, who has had such a dreadful 1994, is seeing it start to improve. It started appallingly for him at Imola when his countryman, the very likeable Roland Ratzenberger.
Expect that is there we are. That's David Brabham there in the Simtech, or rather.
Who is it? Who is it? Let's have a look. It's the second Simtech. It's Gounon. So Jean-Marc Gounon out. That's the 18th retirement, and I'm desperately sorry for the Simtech team, because they've had a dreadful year one way and another, including having David Brabham nearly totally destroy a car in testing at Silverstone last week, and they had to build a new one up very quickly for him for this race, and they had their highest places in a Grand Prix, in 9th and 10th places with Gounon and Brabham, only to retire. So there's 18 retirements now out of the 26 who started. Gerhard Berger, lap 42, leading comfortably, 45-lap race.
Yes, just 8 runners now, and we did say there'd be, just have a look at this, this is the slow motion through the chicane of Olivier Panis in the Ligier, and again I suspect we'll see that left front wheel pouring in the air any minute as the virtually rigid suspensions, there it goes, up what must be a couple of inches, bouncing around. The drivers are finding the cars here to be bumpier than they felt all year. They're very low on downforce, and in terms of the grip level, I must say that driving with a car set up in low downforce configuration, as indeed we do have here at Hockenheim, together with the latest changes, that's Niki Lauda there, double world champion, now heavily involved with the Ferrari team. The difference between driving a car in this sort of Hockenheim configuration with the latest regulations compared to how they would have been earlier in the year at some of the slower circuits where you had more downforce, it's like the drivers now are driving in the wet compared to driving in the dry with the higher levels of downforce that they had earlier on in the season. It really is quite a big difference, even though it is not particularly apparent to us.
So you just saw the Ferrari team looking impassive. Jean Todt, the team manager, had to completely reconstruct the whole organisation from the top downwards. That's Alesi, with Luca Montezemolo, the man who, with Niki Lauda, built the Ferrari team to its success in the 1970s. And Niki Lauda was a double world champion with Ferrari and then went on to become another one with McLaren. Montezemolo had to replace many people at Ferrari who he judged were not doing their jobs properly. They brought in new technicians, new designers. John Barnard, the Englishman who had been with Benetton, with Ferrari before, and had helped bring McLaren to their position of eminence in Formula One racing, rejoined Ferrari. And then Gustav Brunner, the Austrian, who's responsible for many of the design changes, including those big entries to the side pods that you're looking at now. And a new titanium gearbox, a very advanced one, which has overcome the big problem that Ferrari had, which was weight distribution and handling. And because of that, the chassis is right. And then the Ferrari engine man got the new V12 going well, and the package looks absolutely superb. Niki Lauda is a consultant for Ferrari, as well as running his own airline and umpteen other things as well, and a quite incredible man. And they are all watching their man now on lap 44 out of 45. Ferrari enthusiasts, keep your fingers crossed. Cars have dropped out 53 seconds behind Gerhard Berger.
Well, it really has been the most extraordinary race of 1994, after that start line incident, which had a number of accidents taking part within it. There was absolute chaos that eliminated some 13 cars. Now, following on from that, the casualties have generally been in the midfield area, but at the front we've seen both Williams cars affected by it. Damon Hill having a problem when he was hit up the back. David Coulthard losing a front wing, although he subsequently lost his gearbox. But Ferrari really have come through here. They've showed real progress. Berger pole position and to win the race. And Lacey second on the grid. Engine problems on lap 1, sadly, but a grim weekend for Benetton, with Schumacher retiring with the blown engine, and we suspect, and Verstappen exiting the race with that dramatic inferno when the refueling all went so wrong.
Well, you've seen the Ferrari mechanics. They are all ready for their moment of delirious joy and euphoria as Gerhard Berger exits the Senna curve. There they are, looking expectantly down the road to see the first Ferrari victory since 1990. And he's into the stadium now. This is going to be a historic victory for Gerhard Berger and Ferrari, and starts off the second half of the 1994 Grand Prix season, the World Championship, on a fabulously high note. Gerhard Berger, say the flags. I hope the German crowd are going to be generous, because if Schumacher can't win, they surely want Gerhard Berger to. And Gerhard Berger crosses the line, takes the checkered flag, wins the German Grand Prix, and Ferrari equal McLaren's record of Grand Prix victories. You saw the mechanics, you see Gerhard Berger, and you see Jean Todt. He is the man, he's the disciplinarian, he is the martinet who has built the Ferrari team from a disparate collection of elements into a cohesive, hard-punching, well-working organisation. And a wonderful, wonderful day for Ligier, who have been through such hard times in recent years. Guy Ligier himself out, Cyril Derouve, the next owner, out. Now it's owned by Benetton. Flavio Briatore, the head man of Benetton, may not see his own cars come home, but he's seeing the Ligiers that he's responsible for coming through second and third. There is Olivier Panis, his first podium finish, the European Formula 3000 champion of 1993. And behind him, Eric Bernard, who has hung on to get his place with Ligier, and he's seen it come good today. He finishes in third position, in front of, hopefully from the Footwork team's point of view, Christian Fittipaldi, who will finish in fourth place. Gianni Morbidelli, that's Frank Derny in the middle. That's Frank Derny, ex-Benetton. And you see now on the run-down lap, Gerhard Berger, and subject to official confirmation, the results of the German Grand Prix are Gerhard Berger wins by nearly 55 seconds from Olivier Panis, Ligier. Then Eric Bernard, Ligier. Fourth, Fittipaldi in the Footwork. Fifth is Gianni Morbidelli. Sixth is Eric Kermas, and he's just crossed the line as I talk to you in the Larousse for his second point of the year. Seventh, his teammate, Olivier Beretta, who has been lapped. Eighth, Damon Hill, who finished just 2.2 seconds behind Beretta and was the last man to go the distance in Germany. So an enormous number of retirements, 18 of them altogether. But certainly an and that's Martin Brundle walking in on the right-hand side of your picture, as Olivier Beretta respectfully takes up position in the Larousse, in which he finished in 7th place behind German Grand Prix winner Gerhard Berger. What a wonderful result.
Absolutely. And to be on pole position and take the race win really is very, very special indeed for a driver. And Gerhard will feel that was entirely justified from all the hard work they've done. They took the gamble to run the 75-degree engine. That's the latest engine. And after Alesi dropped out, they may well have had some worries about doing so in the race. But it paid off. And I think that Ferrari and Berger can both believe, and with justification, that they've got that race win here today, despite anything that may have happened with retirements behind them. Of course, you can see the two French blue Ligiers behind. They undoubtedly have benefited from the failures that have gone on mechanically, the engine problems, but particularly that start line accident that eliminated so many cars. But they've been there when it mattered. They both finished the race, and Ligier, I must confess, do have, despite their lack of pace that they've had certainly previously, do have reliability for them. And they've shown that to good effect, and they've shown the importance of being reliable, of keeping going, of not making mistakes, because this kind of thing can and here has happened. And without that, the Ligier team would have lost their chance to get the 2nd and 3rd. Saw a glimpse of Martin Brundle then. You may wonder why he's still walking back, having retired from the race some halfway through, but having been in that situation myself, I can tell you that if you drop out of the race right at the far end of the track here, it is a very long walk back, and a long time to contemplate the what might have happened. And clearly for Martin Brundle that could well have been a 3rd position. And we've got Niki Lauda now with Tony Jardine.
Спортивную борьбу, а вот главный герой нашей борьбы выпрастывается из ремней безопасности. Вот тут приветствует он двумя руками. Наступил просто момент торжества. Ура, ребята, наконец-то Феррари на первом месте. И судьи здесь на повороте его хлопают по плечу, обнимают. И вот он так, разминая затекшие ноги, бежит туда, где ждут его друзья. Команда Benetton, как вы видите по таблице...
Why are you seeing Gerhard Berger running in? Well, he stopped on the track, and I suspect that he's run out of petrol, because I can think of no other reason why he would do that. But you can see that all of a sudden he's found a lot of adrenaline. Now, that's the Parc Fermé, where the cars have to go for technical examination after the race. The two Ligiers there, the Ferrari, of course, not there.
No, of course that doesn't matter.
But Tony Jardine has got John Alesi with him.
Так прошел девятый этап чемпионата мира. Следующий этап, я просто упреждаю вас, состоится в Будапеште. Состоится этот этап на трассе как раз не такой скоростной, как это, на трассе медленной, и, может быть, другие команды, другие машины, другие гонщики будут иметь там преимущество. В свое время один из биографов Лауды спросил его: скажи, пожалуйста, Ники, ты можешь сказать, какая победа была самой красивой, какая была самой важной для тебя? И он ответил: всегда была самая последняя. Вот самая красивая и самая важная победа.
So there is Gerhard Berger. He's being towed in now. They've got to get the car into Parc Fermé, of course. And Gerhard, we want him back as quickly as possible so that he can attend the interview of himself, Olivier Panis and Eric Bernard, the Ferrari driver, and two Ligier drivers in the interview room together.
Yes, of course, the cars that finish the race must all go back to the Parc Fermé at the end to be scrutinized, but they do not have to get there under their own steam necessarily. But having said that, the team are not allowed to touch that Ferrari of Gerhard Berger until it is finished scrutineering, until it has been put into the Parc Fermé by the marshals, and only after that will the team be allowed to touch the car.
What a wonderful and enjoyable win. A wonderful win for Gerhard Berger. He really is a lovely man with a superb sense of humour and an implacable will. And it's thanks to him and his patience, his decision to go to Ferrari and to help them with all the experience that he's got in his racing career. And particularly, I'm sure he would want me to say, the lessons he learned from Ron Dennis with McLaren and his late great teammate Ayrton Senna with McLaren, both of whom Gerhard Berger always pays tribute to whenever he can. And he said many times what Ferrari needed was the discipline, the organisation and the administration that McLaren had and are always so superb at. And I hope to be able to teach them some lessons. And that's it, Gerhard Berger. Listen to the crowd. On to the top step of the podium. Every Grand Prix driver's dream.
And now for the winning constructor.
Well, a great and memorable victory for Gerhard Berger and for Ferrari in Germany. Real encouragement for the Ligier team as he receives the magnificent Waterford Glass Winged Horse Trophy to take home with him to Austria. And I'm glad to tell you that in spite of that frightening-looking fire, nobody was seriously hurt in it. It's been a dramatic, an exciting and interesting German Grand Prix.
И вручение призов – обязательный ритуал. Мы привыкли к нему, как и к душу из шампанского, которым обдают друг друга победитель и призеры. А здесь мы видим бурлящую толпу, которая размахивает флагами, которая до сих пор еще переживает этот момент. И где-то эти маленькие колесики торжества вертятся, быстро вертятся в каждом человеке, не успевая остановиться. И, конечно, самих трех. Вращение этих колесиков они излили в струях шампанского, ищут себе же.
Special personality and character, fun-loving, a little bit mad like many Austrians, but a great asset to Formula One. At one point, you know, I felt that Gerhard, after Imola, the loss of Ayrton Senna, may well decide to retire. In my heart, I think I wanted him to retire, but seeing him up there, his judgment to continue was absolutely right.
So, Gerhard Berger, Oliver Panis and Eric Bernard. We will talk to them after the break here on Eurosport. Stay with